Hey everyone, it's Fox from modelmaking.guru here, back with part 2 of our build of the Bandai 1/100 scale Master Grade Heavyarms Gundam. Where are we up to so far? Well, we've painted a whole mess of parts, and this isn't all of them. There's still loads on the sprue. I'm going to have to tidy this up now. God damn it. Right, cleared all that away, took a while to organise. Okay, let's crack on. As I explained in my last video, in the first one, this isn't going to be lots of me building stuff and painting stuff, it's just a quick update. This is a commission, so I need to be completely focused on the build itself. I don't want to be distracted having to do things for camera and messing things up, so it's only a really quick video. Where are we up to so far? Well, as I explained, I've painted all those parts. What I did was basically, and I'll explain as I go along, I had a lot of worries before I started painting this and building it with the hinges. Because it's a posable figure, you can move the arms and the elbows and wrists and legs and knee joints. And I was like, how am I going to paint this thing without messing up the joints? Because when you paint something, it becomes ever so slightly thicker or wider. You get a layer of paint and varnish and other stuff on there. So if you've got a hinge that's like a hole and a thing that goes in it to turn round, that rod that goes in, is gonna like get slightly wider, and it's gonna grip and be a hard thing to put in. And then when you do turn it, it's gonna take all the paint off. So I'm sitting there thinking, I'm gonna have paint coming off everywhere. It's gonna look terrible. It's gonna have to be a fixed position, or it's gonna be an absolute swine to pose. I'm glad to say, once I started painting and assembling it, I realised it's not that bad. Now here is my output so far. Woohoo! I've not done a lot. I've only just started building it. So far we have 2 Gundam feet, and I have to say, Gundam feet are just the best thing in the world. They are just, and let me explain. I said in the last one, I think, wobble the camera, I call these Gundam feet. Now you can see why, because they're just brilliant. I love Gundam feet. Anyway, so I built 2 feet. I've built these parts which go over the foot. If somebody can tell me what these are technically officially called, gaiters maybe? Spats? Not sure. These things are kind of unique to Gundams. They're like little shields that cover this part. In fact, somebody can tell me what this part of the human foot is called. The bit here where you've got the leg, and I don't even know what that's called on a human. So I built these bits, and I've also built a leg. So anyway, I started the build, and the majority of the joints are either ball and socket, like this one, where the ball goes into a little polycap, like these. It's a flexible, but I think it's polyurethane, hence the name polycap, or polyvinyl possibly. That goes in there. I can sand the paint off here, keeps it smooth, and it's smooth in there and not painted, so it's nice and smooth, fluid movements. Or they're like in the leg, you have a hole or a loop, and you have a rod that goes in, and that can rotate. All I did was I'll show you what I did. Oh, I'm trying to show you what I did. But I haven't got a piece to do it on. Yes, I have. Like here, you've got these 2 little tubes in which the peg goes. Just get your knife in, do a bit of that. Voila, that hole is now a little bit wider, and it should fit together quite nicely. And as a result, I've got nice smooth movement in all, well, not all my joints. Some of them are a little bit stiff, but I don't want to push it too far. I don't want this thing to stand up and fall over under its own weight. So the knee here is quite smooth. This one's a bit stiffer. So it may just be a case that once the client who's commissioned this gets it, he puts it in the pose he wants and leaves it to display it. He's not going to be playing, he's not going to be playing with it anyway, hopefully. The money he's spending on it. So my fears were allayed. But what I did was I basically painted I split it into 2 parts. I split it into the stuff that goes inside the Gundam, the bits that are kind of naturally dark grey or German grey. So the skeleton, if you will, these kind of parts. Painted these on the sprue. Everything was primed on the sprue. Just a rattle can of Tamiya surface primer. Everything was primed on the sprue and then hung on a washing line outside because it was warm and sunny, bizarrely, in February. The superstructure parts, is that the right word? The stuff inside the skeleton was painted German grey, just Tamiya German grey. These have been left on the sprue. The other parts, so things like the shielding on the outside, basically anything outside of the skeleton that's going to be white, orange, red, or yellow, or lives outside that main skeleton, that's all been taken off the sprue. All the pieces were cleaned, so all the little bits of sprue, or tree as some people call it, or runner, were taken off with a knife or a couple of sanding sticks. Fine for the polish and slightly fine for a bit of roughness. They were then primed off the sprue. Once they'd been cleaned up, primed off the sprue. There was some pre-shading done with Tamiya rubber black, and that's basically just spraying rubber black in the lines, around the edges, in the corners, where I wanted some dark shading. Then it was painted over with, in this case, this one was flat white. These were Tamiya flat red, Tamiya flat white. I have some yellow parts, not many. They are Tamiya flat yellow, bizarrely. The orange parts, or sorry, the red parts, they've all been painted. You can probably see the pre-shading a bit better on these. Let me find one that's really good. Okay, the shield, that'll do. If you look here, I'll see if I can get this in focus for you. You can see on the shield, it's painted flat red, but the pre-shading of the rubber black underneath just gives it some dark corners. Now what I did was, rather than just spam the whole thing with bright red, which would destroy all the pre-shading, you can see it also on the Gundam feet here, which would destroy all the pre-shading, I lightly misted red over to get a bit of coverage, and then I misted over again. I just built it up very slowly, so it was almost a red, but not quite. It was still quite dark. And then just in some areas where I wanted it a bit brighter, I just hung around with the spray, with the airbrush for a little second, just to get more paint in there. So I don't know if you can see here. It's darker on this part. I'll get a pointy stick. It's darker here, but it's lighter here. There's just more paint on here. So it came out not actually the bright red that is Tamiya flat red. And I didn't want that. I wanted to keep the pre-shading. So that was done. Same with the orange parts. Now the Tamiya flat red was just flat red. The flat white was just flat white. And the flat yellow is just flat yellow. The orange, slightly different. I wanted to try and match the orange of the parts in the kit. And unfortunately, I can't tell you how I did that. Because a long time ago, on a modelling desk far away, I mixed a particular orange colour to do flight suits for X-Wing pilots and snowspeeder pilots. No idea what I mixed that with. It was probably like flat orange and some white and a little bit of yellow. I dug that out. It was almost the right colour. So I got some of this. I added a little bit of flat white and it toned it down a little bit. And then I got this colour, which is sort of a match for the kit pieces. Now what I also did, I'll show you that. What I also did was, especially for these pieces, these are going to open up on the side, on the chest plate of the Gundam, and there's the gatlings under here. When I pre-shaded it, all the insides of the panels I'd completely covered in the rubber black, or a bit more than the outside. So on this one I'll put rubber black here, and around the edges, and lots of rubber black in here. When I've painted it, I've painted this, built up the paint on between those grooves so it's a bit brighter, but on the inside I've just given it a reasonably light misting, so it's darker, because it's like inside it's going to get blast from the Gatling, it's going to get cordite from the Gatling, and I've done the same with many other parts around the let's get one of these, around the Gundam. So this is the outside, and then the inside is a bit darker. And it's just a little less red paint inside. That's all, basically, just to give it a bit of variation. And actually, you'll see it even more on the white panels. That's a white panel, and there's the inside. It's a bit darker. And all it is, as I say, is a little less paint on the inside. The idea being that either it's something that opens up and it's one of the missile launcher racks, so it's firing missiles out, and you'll get the backblast of all the smoke and stuff that comes out of the back of a rocket engine, or it's got the Gatling gun, so it's got cordite and other dust and dirt, or it's just generally inside and not cleaned very often, so it's dirty and grimy. And a lot of these won't actually be seen, but because I'm not 100% sure what you'll see and what you won't, I'll just assume you can see it all, and I'll weather it appropriately. If it gets covered up, it gets covered up. So anyway, yes, so I had this process of taking about 8 billion pieces off the sprues, sticking them on a, well, trimming them up, sticking them on a cocktail stick, priming them, letting them dry, sticking them back in the spray booth, pre-shading them, letting them dry, sticking them back in the spray booth, painting one side the base colour, letting it dry, sticking it back in the spray booth, turning it over, letting it dry, spraying it, letting it dry, and that's where we're up to. So it's a kind of laborious and tedious process, but I don't mind it too much because it's kind of fun. And now the build's actually started. It's sweet. That took me like 10 minutes, 5 minutes. It's going together really well. So next up, I think, is I'll get everything built into units like legs, arms, torso, head. And then I've got to plan the weathering. I've got to plan varnishing and everything else. So I'm trying to figure out the best way to varnish it. I don't want to really do too much spraying over it with varnishes because I don't want to knacker the joints that I've already been very careful not to knacker so far. So what I may do is use the old, as our American cousins would call it, future floor polish. We call it Pledge Multi-Surface Wax. I may brush apply that, put the decals on, brush over it again, do some weathering and washes and oils, and then spray matte varnish it, just to minimise how much is actually sprayed. Because I'm hoping spraying a matte varnish over it won't knacker the joints too much. Or if it does, I can move them. I mean, most of the joints are actually covered up, so where there is wear and tear, you won't actually see it. So all my concerns were allayed, although I haven't started building it fully yet, so everything could go horribly wrong. So that's where we're up to. A couple of awesome, awesome Gundam feet, which are just the best. Oh, one other thing as well. I was also trying to figure out how to do the paint chipping. And there's several methods. I could have done a paint chipping layer, the colour I wanted, then masked it off and painted the base colour, but I didn't want to do that because I'd lose the pre-shading. Then I thought I can use a stippling effect. I get a bit of Brillo pad and dry brush with it to get little chip effects, but it's super, this is super big, and you know, I'll show you how big the person is. Let me find the dude. Where's the dude? There he is. There's Trower. He's that big. So you can see the scale of this. A paint chip I would normally paint would have maybe about 10 foot in diameter. So that's not going to be good. But what I found was, because I only sprayed light coats of spray as I was putting these together, little tiny bits of the paint came off, revealing the primer underneath. And you know what? That's brilliant, because that looks perfect. So I think what I might do is just crack on building it. If I get paint chips, I get paint chips. They're natural wear and tear, so it's going to happen in edges and corners, which is absolutely brilliant. And then anything else I want to add, like paint chipping across a plate or something, I'll probably get the head of a pin and just gently nick bits of paint to show the primer underneath, because the primer is a very light grey colour. And I'll do my traditional ILM style paint chipping. So quite pleased with that. I'll actually be able to do real paint chipping. So that's where we're up to. Not sure when I'll do the next one of these, but we'll get some of the building done. Might be up to the point of doing the weathering. As I say, I'm not going to show you what I'm doing because I don't have time and I can't be distracted. So we'll crack on. But that's where we're up to. We've built this much, and it doesn't look much like a Gundam, but I have built these bits, and these are just kick-ass. I love these. Real shoes need to have these. People that make shoes, get onto that. We all need these gaiters, shin guard. What are they called? Somebody tell me, and tell me what this bit of the foot is, where you have your leg here and the foot. Tell me what that bit of the foot is called, that little curve there. But that'll do it for this time. Hang around for the next one, which will be at a point in time. As always, hop along to modelmaking.guru, check out my other stuff. But until next time, adios amigos.